All right, as the war rages in Gaza, reports that Hamas is raging back, threatening now to kill all remaining hostages if demands aren't met. Demands such as more aid for Gaza, but more to the point, more prisoner exchanges. Hamas, we're told, still holds the bodies of 20 hostages who died in captivity. 137 hostages are still alive, we're told, 100 freed during that seven-day ceasefire. Some thoughts right now from Mark Regad, the senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mark, very good to have you back.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
What do you make of these demands?
I think it's psychological warfare, though we can have no illusions about who Hamas is and what they're capable of. We saw the violence, the atrocious, horrific violence that they committed when they invaded our country on October 7th. The burnings of people alive, the beheadings, the rapes, the machine gunning of the young people at the music festival. And in addition to that, as you've just said, we got hostages out during the pause a week and a half ago, and we heard stories from them, terrible stories of abuse, both physical and psychological. The head of the children's hospital that accepted the 30 children that came out of captivity after 50 days, she said, without going into too many details, privacy issues, but she said the children came back as shadows of children, her words. And so, of course, we fear for the fate of our hostages.
Now, I'm just curious because we know of these 20 hostages who died in captivity. Now, a good many of them, I don't have an exact number, Mark, so I apologize, you probably do. Hamas is blamed on Israel and attempted attacks in Gaza. What do you say to that?
Well, that's their playbook, blame everything on Israel, yes. But what is the truth? These people were very much alive. They were kidnapped by Hamas, forcibly abducted and taken back to Gaza, and Hamas is responsible for them. And if they have died under Hamas's watch, Hamas is responsible, they are accountable, and we will hold them responsible. And we will bring them to justice. And we will reach every Hamas terrorist who's responsible for the killing and the murder and the mutilation of Israelis, and they will pay a price.
Now, you, meanwhile, and Israel's leading, this hunt and hopeful capture of the Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar. And some suspect he is still in Gaza. Do you believe that to be the case?
Well, we believe he's underground somewhere in the Khan Yunis area. That's the latest information I have. And that we will reach him. It's only a matter of time. And what is interesting to see is that as Hamas's regime of terror inside Gaza appears to be more and more shaky, we're actually seeing more Gazans speak out against him on television. And it's actually interesting because up until now, his authoritarian rule, everyone was very scared in Gaza, the Palestinians there, to speak out against Hamas's regime. But as things look more shaky, as the IDF moves in, we're seeing more and more Gazans stand up and say, Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, you are responsible for this destruction. You are responsible for everything that's gone wrong. You are responsible for this war. And I think as this conflict goes on, you'll see more and more pent-up anger from people in Gaza against the Hamas leadership for what they've brought upon Gaza.
You know, Mark, I'm sure you pay attention to world reaction to what's going on in Israel, but particularly these, protests in the United States and a lot of the protests that stir up on some Ivy League campuses in the United States. One president of a university, the University of Pennsylvania, has stepped down. She said very little in response to anti-Semitic actions on the part of students there. Two others' jobs could also be on the vine. What do you think of that?
So obviously anti-Semitism is concern everyone, because it starts with the Jews, but it never ends with the Jews. People have talked about anti-Semitism as exposing the canary in the mine shaft, so to speak. That people, as I say, they might say they're only against Jews or they're only speaking to hurt the Jews, to kill the Jews. But ultimately, it never ends with the Jews. And a society that tolerates anti-Semitism is a sick society.
Mark, thank you very much. Wish we had more time. Mark Regad, the senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I will keep you posted on these latest developments and the confusion over just the number of hostages still left and held by Hamas or Hamas operatives. There's just not a firm number on it.